Welcome to Transmission today on World Crypto Network. I'm talking with the CEO of Lisk, Max Kordek. How's it going?
Hey Theo, great. Thanks. It's a pleasure to meet you and thanks for having me today.
Excellent. So Lisk, everyone's talking about Lisk. You know, Lisk had a massive ICO and everyone is talking about Ethereum, of course. And since Lisk is a fork of Ethereum and using some of that technology, everyone is talking about Lisk. But before we get into Lisk and your role in it, I wanted to ask you to tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into Bitcoin, and what are some past projects that you've worked on?
Okay, so as you already said, my name is Max Kordek. I'm 24 years old and I'm from Germany. I'm living currently in Aachen. Before Lisk, I studied electrical engineering at the Aachen University. And yeah, I got into Bitcoin, blockchain, and co in 2013. I had like 600 euros left, and I discovered Bitcoin and the mining stuff, and discovered that, yeah, to mine Bitcoin, it's a little bit too late. So that's why I decided to get into the Litecoin community, mine a few Litecoins, and check everything out. So I bought a few graphic cards and started mining in my one room, in my student room. And yeah, it was kind of funny because my room was always very hot and it was so loud and so on. So I stopped it after like 1 or 2 months and decided that proof of work is nothing for me. And gladly I discovered Next, or NXT, which has a proof of stake algorithm. And that's why I was pretty active in the community. I was on several conferences for them, and I was in Amsterdam on the Bitcoin 2014. I was in London and in Germany also on a few ones. But somehow I felt that the Next community, or that the development had no clear path forward. And that's why I pulled back out of the community and decided to look into other ventures and into other cryptocurrency projects. And then I discovered Crypti and saw that they want to build a decentralized application platform. And I immediately thought that, yeah, well, this is the future, right? It's decentralized applications, and I wanted to be a part of that. So I wrote them, I got into the foundation, and I worked pretty hard with the whole team on the Crypti project for 18 months. But yeah, somehow there was not enough movement at the end, and there was no clear future anymore because we had no money left. The motivation was pretty at a low at this time, and that's why Oliver and I decided to build Lisk as a fork of Crypti, built in or written in JavaScript. And yeah, that was at the end of 2015 or beginning of 2016. And yeah, that was our journey into Lisk and how we started Lisk.
Okay, great. Okay, I have a question for you. What is a blockchain?
Okay, so I think everyone who will view this video knows that answer already. Blockchain is like a distributed or decentralized database. There is a consensus rule on the network that only specific nodes or specific like servers in the case of proof of stake, or miners in the proof of work case, can write into this blockchain or into this database. And if we talk about Bitcoin, for example, all the transactions are summarized in one block, and this block comes on average every 10 or every 12 minutes. And in this block, every transaction is included. And yeah, I think the biggest advantage of the blockchain is that you can save data in a decentralized way, which can't be altered or which can't be manipulated in the future anymore. So you can save values into the blockchain now, and you can be sure in like 10 days that this data is still the same as it was 10 days ago. And I think this is also a big advantage for sidechains in Lisk, that they can't be manipulated, and this opens up a lot of use cases.
Okay, great. Well, before we get into side chains and all that, I just want to clear something up. Was Crypty a fork of Ethereum, or is Lisk a fork of Crypty?
No, so Lisk is a fork of Crypty, yes, but Crypty isn't a fork of Ethereum. You got that wrong in the beginning sentence. Ethereum, we have nothing to do with Ethereum. Okay, we are standalone. We started from scratch at Crypty, and at Lisk we took the Crypty source code, and it's practically a complete new and different system.
Okay, thanks. Great. Just wanted to clear that up. Okay, how much did Lisk raise in the ICO in Bitcoin and USD value?
We raised about 14,000 Bitcoin. I think at the current valuation, that's about $6 million. And we were pretty happy about that. It's a huge success for ourselves. And yeah, we are very glad that we could convince a lot of people that decentralized applications, or how we call them now, blockchain applications, are the future, and that Lisk is the best platform, or one of the best platforms to do this.
Okay. Are these funds being held in Bitcoin, USD, Lisk? How are they being held? And if they're being held in Bitcoin, is there anything being done to hedge that value? Even though you guys are not a fork of Ethereum, you might remember that they did have a big ICO, and they did have some issues because they did their ICO in Bitcoin and they were holding Bitcoin, and the price went down a lot. I think the ICO happened around when Bitcoin was around $600, and we had Bitcoin at 220 around for a long time, and they were still trying to develop. So how are the funds being held?
Yeah, so up to now, we still don't have access to the funds. During the ICO, we had specific escrow terms that our lawyer, Axel Hellinger, and the CEO of Coinemal, Paul Klanschek, holds all Bitcoin in a multi-signature vault on Coinbase. This was the reason to guarantee that we don't run away with the funds, because it's a crypto world and there's a lot of scamming. Up till now, we didn't make the necessary procedures and the necessary steps to get to the money. But in the future, we will definitely hold them again in a multi-signature vault or wallet. We have to decide on the platform if it stays on Coinbase or if it will be another method. About the hedging part, we are not so sure right now. We are definitely in a better position than Ethereum was, with the Bitcoin halving happening soon. And I think we will definitely hedge a bit in US dollars or euros to be sure that we can definitely develop for at least 1 year the platform. So we are on the secure path, but we are big believers into Bitcoin and the Bitcoin ecosystem, and we think that the majority of all funds will stay in Bitcoin. Because also the timing is very good.
Okay, great. So none of the ICO funds have been spent. So who decides how the ICO funds are spent and when they will be spent?
Okay, so we are a startup. Okay, so we have a clear structure in our company. I'm the CEO, Oliver is the CTO, and we kind of make the management. So we both decide how the funds are gonna spend, like how much we want to spend on marketing, how much on development, and so on. So we will make the decision.
Okay. All right, as you know, and as I read on the Lisk blog, at the launch, there were some issues.
Yeah.
The webs. You guys were talking about how the website was DDoSed, and there was no Windows wallet available, and so on and so forth. Or there were some issues with the web wallet, and so on. I just wanted to ask, how come there wasn't a Windows or Mac wallet? And I think if I'm right, I went on there today, and there is a Docker. You can use Docker, and there's directions on how to do it, but it's not a very simple web wallet like you have with Dogecoin or Bitcoin or whatever, where you just download it and you get your addresses, and bam, there you go. So, are you guys going to do that? And I think that's one reason I was asking about the funds is. Well, what I was going to ask is, how do you raise, so many $1 million and then not make a Windows wallet? Because it wouldn't make sense. But so those funds are locked. So you guys are just working on, whatever funds you have now. But when is the Windows wallet coming?
Okay, so first of all, as you know, we forked Crypty, and Crypty had all this. Crypty had a one-click client for Windows and for Mac and so on. Yeah, Lisk is so successful that we practically had to change half of Crypty's backend at Lisk, so that it becomes much more faster, and that there aren't so many problems in concurrency anymore, and so on. That's why we spent the last months on development on the core, on the backend of Lisk, to make it faster, to optimize it, to make it more secure, because there also were a few security holes in it. So we just had no time, okay, and the community was pressing us to release, but we said, okay, no, right now we are not ready. We need like another 4 weeks, okay? So we spent the 4 weeks, fixed more bugs, made it again faster. And at the end, there was simply no time left. There was so much to do, and we thought that security is a much more important topic than a Windows wallet. And that's why we wanted to provide the web login, so that everyone can simply log into our trusted and secured web login. But yeah, it unfortunately was DDoS, and that's why many were not able to access their Lisk funds. The Docker container, or the Docker client, was available 2.5 hours after launch, because we spent the whole day preparing all necessary stuff. Like we deployed 101 nodes for the mainnet, and yeah, we configured the Genesis block and so on. So it was very time intensive. The whole day we were working like crazy, and yeah, there was simply no time left. We are a small team, as you know. We had no access to the funds, so we can't hire more team members at this moment, or we couldn't. So this was all we could have done, and I think we managed pretty good, because yeah, as you know, 2.5 hours only the Windows and Mac client was available. But we were a bit surprised that everyone simply wanted to send their Lisk to Poloniacs. Okay, we thought, okay, everyone is so happy about Lisk, they will hold for a while and not send immediately. Yeah, it was very unpleasant, but yeah, we are here now, and we can't change the past, and we are trying to do the best. Yeah, and sorry to everyone that you couldn't send your funds.
Okay, yeah, I think that that we definitely saw some panic sellers of the ICO. It was really crazy, and I think everywhere on all social media channels having to do with anything related to Bitcoin, people were talking about it. Okay, well, now it's over, and you guys are going to move on from that.
Yes, actually, the valuation was so crazy. Okay, through the IOU trading before on YoBit and Bluebit, it had to go down, right? It can't be valued at like $800 million at this moment.
Yeah, that's good that you bring it up. So that's what I want to clear up for anyone that doesn't understand that, because I think that a lot of traders, caught that and figured out what's going on, but I don't know if a lot of outsiders. So you had on Bluebit and Yobit some smaller altcoin exchanges, Lisk trading, but it wasn't really Lisk because there was no Lisk available and there was no Lisk blockchain or no Lisk network at all. It was just an IOU from the exchange. And I don't know if anyone has tried to withdraw from those exchanges or whatever, but you guys did post something on your blog warning people that you don't have anything to do with that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. They didn't have Lisk at this time because the mainnet wasn't launched, and they simply promised the people that they will send the Lisk, the real Lisk, later to them. But we never wanted to get into the risk that our users might be harmed through that. And that's why we issued or we published the blog post to say that we don't appreciate the fact. And I think a lot of manipulation was going on. And yeah, like I said, the price was like at $6 or $8 at the end for one Lisk. And I think that's kind of crazy. If you think about it, $8 for one token for a network which isn't even launched yet. So that's why we think that the price crash at the beginning was obvious. And right now we have like $40 million market cap, and I think that's a great value already. That's a great market cap.
Okay, great. Everyone is also talking about the Etherium Dow, of course. And I think I read on Reddit that there was some hints that it would be possible to do something similar on the Lisk network. Now, what if I'm just a Lisk user? Could I say, okay, I want to do a DAO. I'm just going to build that as an app, or are you guys going to, get together and say, hey, we want to do this so people can raise money to build apps on the Lisk network? Or are you guys going to have something like a DAO?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, a DAO is simply a platform on which you can send in proposals, and the funds are transacted to the proposals which are accepted at the end. So this is definitely possible to build on Lisk in a sidechain. I don't know if any member is currently planning to build a DAO and to open source the code later on. In the team, we're discussing this option to do one later it's definitely not in the next 4 weeks or so. It's definitely something for the future, like in 1 year or 2 years. But yeah, that's pretty much possible. And I think it's a great way to decentralize a company so that there don't have to be any trust into a centralized team anymore. I'm pretty glad that the DAO is now happening and that we can take a look how it behaves and how it's working out. And if it's really a great idea and it proves itself in the future, we definitely consider to do it on Lisk as well.
All right, great. All right, Lisk doesn't run on proof of work. You talked about how you had Litecoin in your college dorm and it was really hot, and then you decided, okay, I'm not a fan of proof of work. So it runs on something called Delegated proof of stake. And I did look in the wallet, and I believe it's called Forging.
Yes.
And then you see a list of delegates. So I can't, if I just buy 100 Lisk or 1,000 Lisk or however many Lisk, I can't just stake it right away. I need to be a delegate in order to forge Lisk. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How much does it cost to become a delegate?
To become a delegate, it costs 25 Lisk. And yeah, then after you have registered for a delegate account, you appear in our list on our client. and everyone can vote for you.
Okay, so you pay the 25 Lisk. Who gets the 25 Lisk?
The 25 Lisk is distributed again to all active delegates on the network.
Okay, got you. So they get money, the Lisks from the people paying to become delegates and also for securing the network.
Yes, exactly. They become all transaction fees occurring on the network. So, for example, the .1 transaction fee or the 25 transaction fee for registering a delegate or the 5 Lisk fee for setting up a second passphrase. And the special thing is that every one of the 101 delegates become or get the same fee. Okay, so it's not like if delegate A forges block 1 and this one block has a lot of fees inside, he gets all. No, it becomes average through all the delegates active in the network. And this is 101 active delegates.
Okay. Well, I was looking, and I believe it's the top 100 are the ones that get that are able to forge,
Yes.
and you have to get voted in. So I guess you get a pseudonym like XYZ or Lisk Master or whatever, and then people vote for you. So you just make yourself public. Is the idea that I'm making myself public or making a name of myself what do I have to actually do as a delegate?
Yes, so as a delegate, you simply have to secure the network, okay? But to become an active delegate, people obviously have to know you and trust you, and they have to see that you are a very serious guy who want to secure the network and don't want to manipulate it. So we kind of bring a community aspect into Lisk, into the consensus algorithm. And we already saw that a lot of proposals are appearing, like people saying, okay, with my funds, I will fund app development, or I will create a great Lisk website and so on. So a lot of proposals are coming up, and I think this keeps the community very active.
All right, so some delegates are saying, I'm not going to just keep the funds from securing the network for myself. I'm going to reinvest in the community. But couldn't I just vote for myself? I mean, how many votes do I get? What if I make 10,000 web wallets and I just put enough Lisk in there to vote for myself a bunch, and then I get, the top 10 delegates? How is that not possible to do?
Yes, so you can only vote for one delegate once. If you want to vote for him again, you first have to remove that vote, and then you can vote for him again. But that doesn't make sense, and you only vote with your Lisk balance. Okay, if you say if we say you have 100 Lisk and you vote for delegate A, then this delegate will get 100 votes, simplified. So you can't manipulate it by voting for one delegate multiple times. A delegate can only get so many votes as you have Lisk tokens.
Right. So, but I could buy a bunch of Lisk and then use that to vote. So I would have to pay for it, basically.
Yes. If you own a lot of Lisk, your voting power increases. But you have to remember that everyone in the network can vote for delegates, and they can vote for 101 delegates at once. And it's always the full balance which gets, which counts as the voting power. Okay, so you don't need like only 1% in voting power to get into the top 101. You actually need maybe like 20% or so. So it's a lot of money you would have to buy in Lisk to actually vote yourself into the top 101 simply by voting for yourself.
Gotcha. All right. Well, on the Lisk network, as far as I understand, every decentralized app is on its own side chain. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So one thing I wanted to ask about are how are these side chains secured? Or do they have their own proof of work, or how does that work?
Okay, so the sidechains are extremely flexible. we have an app SDK which generates like a framework for yourself. So you can start this app SDK, type in a few things, and it generates an app framework. And in this framework, the default consensus algorithm is a modified delegated proof of stake system, just with the spin that the app developer has to select the nodes which are securing the sidechains himself. Okay, so this is not optimal at this moment, but it's important to know that in the future it can be modularized. So you can decide as an app developer yourself, do I want proof of work, do I want proof of stake, or do I want to use the inbuilt system by the Lisk team?
All right, so right now it's flexible, and you could do, theoretically, you could have proof of stake, proof of work, or other forms of consensus to try to secure the sidechain. Okay, I mean, it sounds good. I just, I guess that I'm skeptical. I guess a lot of people are skeptical because we just haven't seen it.
Yeah,
so,
and
I have a question.
Okay.
Why would I want to secure the sidechain? Because the sidechain needs to have its own reward. It has to have its own blocks and its own block reward, because why would I spend my electricity or my staking power or my time or whatever with it unless it's going to pay me something? So every app would then have its own coin, basically, to secure its own sidechain, right?
Yeah, you can actually also send Lisk to the sidechain. And if the app developer wants this, he can say, okay, I have like one transaction which enables the user to send a message. And this special transaction type costs like 1 Lisk. Okay. And now every time someone sends such a transaction or such a message on the sidechain, he has to pay 1 Lisk. And this Lisk now gets distributed again to every node which is securing the sidechain. Okay, so this is a monetization model which can be used. The sidechains are practically completely customizable, so every developer can have another system in place. So he can also decide, okay, of this fee, 10% goes to me and 90% goes back to the network. Or he can say, okay, I create my own token, and users can buy these tokens for myself for Lisk, and all the nodes will get rewarded in these tokens, something like that. So there are a lot of options. So at this moment, it's not the best and not the most elegant solution. In the future, we want to build something like a delegate marketplace. So that delegates, which are not one of the top 101, but which still have an active node online, can decide to secure sidechains or secure applications. So they simply make an entry into that delegate marketplace and say, okay, guys, for 10 Lisk, I will secure your sidechain for 100,000 blocks. And then the app developer can go to that marketplace and check or decide on some delegates who want or who should secure his app, and then he pays for that. Okay, so at that point, the Lisk network would also provide the infrastructure for the apps. And this is some way how these node operators can actually earn Lisk.
All right. Well, okay, I guess that, the delegates that they would choose would be public, because I was just wondering how the app operators are going to be able to pick people to secure their network that are not going to attack their network and do 51% on their own on that network. So they just have to incentivize them enough so that they won't want to do that, I guess.
Yes. So I think if you choose, for example, 100 or 200 individual delegates, that means also individual nodes, it becomes very hard to attack the network because it's very decentralized already. If we look at, for example, Bitcoin, it has like 8 mining pools, and this is the majority of the network, okay? And this represents 8 or I don't know 10 individuals in the network which has power. And if we like transcribe that into the Lisk sidechain system, there we now have like 100 or 200 individual persons who are securing it. So it's much more decentralized at the end of the day, you know. So I think it becomes very hard, but I agree with you. At this moment, it's not very certain if it actually will work or not. It's an experiment, you know. But I'm pretty certain, and if it's not working in the way I describe it now, we will find a solution which will work. But for us, it's very important that the sidechains remain independent of the main chain, so that the main chain or the main chain delegates, which are securing the main chain, they shouldn't secure also the sidechains, because this is again not scalable. If you have like 100,000 applications and only, I don't know, 1,000 nodes or so should secure them, it doesn't gonna work. Okay,
Right.
So it's important for us that the sidechains remain independent.
Okay, great. Well, okay, that can go into, I wanted to ask how Lisk is different from Ethereum, and I guess that's one way. So in Ethereum, everybody, all the nodes are downloading all the smart contracts on the whole blockchain ever. It seems like that blockchain will get really big. I don't know how big it is now, but it seems like it'll just go on forever, because if everyone builds all this crazy stuff on there and DAO and everything else, then that should get really big. So
Yes.
what you're saying in Lisk, what you did is, instead of if the nodes don't have to download every DApp, all they have to do is interact with a sidechain if they want to use that app. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So I think this bears enormous potential for the future. So we have much less, or we have many less problems in the future ahead. Okay, so I think Ethereum will actually solve the problems in terms of scalability, but the end goal will something similar to what Lisk is now. So I think they're going to implement sharding and some other techniques. But we don't even have the problem at the beginning, and we won't have it in the future. So we can take care of other things. Okay, Ethereum have to take care of scalability for the next 2 or 3 years. We can look at other things, how we can improve our system, and not worry how we can make it scalable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So okay, all right. Tell me, what are some utilities of Lisk that you see? What are some things that we can do with it really soon?
Yes. So we released the platform in beta version and the app SDK as an alpha version. So I think there's still much work to do in terms of stability and optimization. But actually, right now you can already deploy your own sidechain, which can be secured by up to 101 nodes again, same as the main chain is. And you can practically develop everything you want on it. Okay, it's written in JavaScript, and you can implement everything you want. You can, for example, make a social network, which, for example, which has some special features which are only possible due to the Lisk token. For example, you can send persons messages, but these messages only appear if a certain threshold is reached, because this person says, no, I don't want any message which is sent to me which didn't have like a fee of 5 Lisk. So this might reduce spam on social networks as well, in this case, on this application. Other use cases are definitely in the Internet of Things market. I see, for example, a big opportunity in some kind of a marketplace to sell sensor data. I think in the future we will see many different, everyone who has a sensor at home, like a temperature sensor, can now sell his data or his values for very small amounts of Lisk tokens, for example, if such a Internet of Things marketplace exists, okay? And I think if this happens all over the world, a lot of people will benefit of that. For example, now universities can buy many different data sets from all over the world, and businesses can do the same. So I think this is a big opportunity for us, and yeah, for cryptocurrencies in general, to allow everyone to say, okay, I want to buy a sensor value, and it only costs 1/10,000th of a cent, and this is not possible to do with PayPal or so. So I have to use like Lisk or like Bitcoin, and I see a big chance here, a big opportunity. Other use cases are, yeah, like any other application, you know, at the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. It can be like sharing economies like Airbnb or Uber. It can be decentralized messaging like WhatsApp. Or yeah, you can even make decentralized games like a decentralized browser game which has its own economy inside of it and actually uses real cryptographic tokens. So there's a lot of possibilities here and a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs. But I think the biggest things are yet to come. If we move back to the Apple's App Store, before it was released, many didn't even know what potential it has. Okay, and suddenly there were all kinds of cool apps popping up every day. And I think we will see this at Lisk and also at Ethereum one day as well. So that the development suddenly accelerates exponentially, and that we will see use cases we never thought of before. Okay. And I think we're just at the beginning, and I think we can't even see what will be possible on this.
I've got another question. Why not just make all this on Bitcoin? Why not just, contribute, use all the effort to contribute to side chains or other projects that are going on that are trying to do very similar things? And also, could you see some of the projects that you're doing just being used over at Bitcoin? So, okay, we got this side chain Airbnb going over here on Lisk. Let's just basically copy that and do it on the Bitcoin side chain once they've got that going. So, what do you think about that?
Yes. Okay. So, of course, it can be built on any cryptocurrency platform which supports sidechains. But at Lisk, the blockchain and the network is just the underlying structure. Okay, it's a solution to offer a platform. For us, it's very important to have our client, which has a decentralized application store or a blockchain directory, and to have this user experience which is very tailored to this use case, to have applications running on blockchain. For example, in Bitcoin, we would have only like it would be just another project, okay, and we couldn't transform the ecosystem in that way like we can now. For example, at Lisk, we can say, okay, we have the client, everyone who runs the Lisk network also has this client, and this client actually has an app directory. So everyone also can directly access all apps on the Lisk network. At Bitcoin, we would have to provide just another app which access or which makes all these apps available. And we then have to fight with a 10-minute block time. We have to fight with scaling issues. We have to fight with decisions core developers are doing, and we have no control over. So this gives us control. It gives us the options and the opportunity to transform the platform into what we really want to do in the future. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I can see that, but I think it'll be interesting whenever we do see side chains on Bitcoin, if they work and what people will use them for, I think we'll have a lot of the same questions about how to secure them and so on. So I think it'll be interesting to see how Lisk is able to do it. Like you said at the beginning of the interview, I messed up because Lisk is not a fork of Ethereum. That was totally wrong. But I also wanted to go into two other things that I found going through some of the documentation. And as far as I can see, Lisk is kind of marketed as a JavaScript alternative to Ethereum, which I guess that's kind of what confused me about it. As far as I know, I think it's called a Solidity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is Java, right? I mean, so Ethereum does have Java. It doesn't have side chains, but I don't know. I just didn't. Right? Isn't that basically the same?
So first of all, it's JavaScript. It's a different language than Java. But
Okay.
yeah, I actually don't know so much about Ethereum itself, but Solidity is based on JavaScript. It isn't JavaScript itself, okay? So there is still a difference. And at Ethereum, you actually only develop the smart contracts, put them in the blockchain, and if you want to make a decentralized application, you connect different smart contracts, okay? At Lisk, you really concentrate directly on the decentralized, or how we call it, blockchain application itself. You don't build many different smart contracts and connect them to each other. No, you directly build this application with the front end, with the back end, with a new blockchain as a database, and so on. So it becomes a truly encapsulated application, okay, and not just some script on the blockchain.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, another thing that someone pointed out to me that I wanted to talk about is it says, I think in one of the handbooks, quote, NXT introduced proof of stake, which removed the mining element from the network. King with Peercoin invented proof of stake, right? Not NXT.
Yes.
What do you?
Yes. Actually, it did, but as far as I know, the proof of stake system in Peercoin is extremely different than the proof of stake system in Next. Okay.
Okay.
I think at Peercoin there were things like staking and so on over time. Or I absolutely don't know how Peercoin works, but I think what's important is that Next made proof of stake big, okay? And I certainly have to take another look at the handbook and maybe correct this term or this sentence. But yeah, maybe it's a wrong quote I used there.
That's cool. And just someone pointed it out to me, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Peercoin was the first one, but it's true. NXT did make proof of stake popular. That's definitely started a wave of proof of stake coins. That is true. All right. Well, what about Bitcoin? Do you have a favorite, Bitcoin improvement proposal that you support?
Oh, yes. So I'm actually completely outside of Bitcoin. Of course, I follow all news, but I don't make any opinions about ongoing topics, because I think that in the future, Bitcoin will be some kind of proof of concept for cryptocurrencies. It will be this first big cryptocurrency, which was great and all, but it wasn't efficient, it wasn't energy friendly, and it wasn't fast. And I think Lisk and Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies, which are building on top of this experience or this knowledge of Bitcoin, will have a much bigger future. Okay, I'm an altcoin enthusiast, and I like altcoins much more than Bitcoin itself, because they actually innovate the space further. Okay, Bitcoin is the same like it was 1 year ago, and there are many developments ongoing, of course, but no dramatically new features are being implemented. And I think it's actually normal because the market cap is so huge and they have to be very careful with new features. But yeah, it kind of also destroys this this thought that cryptocurrencies are innovating the world. Okay, so how can Bitcoin innovate the world if it stays the same for, or nearly the same for years? Okay, you know what I want to say?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
I mean, I just wanted to get your opinion
yeah, okay.
on that. If you know what you thought about block size discussion or any other improvements that are going on with Bitcoin. And yeah, okay,
Yeah,
that's your
yeah.
altcoin enthusiast. That pretty much,
Yes, right. Yes.
Okay.
I really like to see more and new innovations in altcoins. So I also don't hate Ethereum or so, like many in our community do. Many think, okay, Lisk will push and will kick Ethereum from the altcoin throne. But I think we can live next to each other and push us into much bigger realms than we are in right now. And I think if in the future the different altcoin communities will actually work together, then the whole space or the whole blockchain industry will grow much faster and much bigger than it is now. And
Okay.
I'm a
So,
big fan of working together and working in a group with everyone.
okay. So you're not. That was just someone in your forum that created the meme. Who do you trust? Have you seen it? The who do
Yeah,
you
I
trust?
saw them all. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They are funny, but I think they are only memes. Okay, it's everyone knows that Vitalik is a brilliant cryptographer and that he really knows his stuff. And yeah, they just were meant to be funny, nothing more.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if we want to get involved with Lisk, if we want to build an application or we want to become a delegate, where do we go?
Yes. So if you want to get involved with Lisk, the first site to be on is definitely lisk.io, our official web presence. From there, if you after you have read all information available about Lisk, you should definitely head to our chat. It's also available on lisk.chat. And there you can ask any kind of question you might have. You can even criticize us, what isn't well, what might be a problem in the future, and so on. And from there on, I think it's pretty clear to just install the client, take a look for yourself, buy yourself some Lisk on the exchanges, play around with the network. If you're a developer, you can take a look at the documentation we offer, which isn't the best at this moment, but will definitely be enhanced over the coming weeks and months. And just play around with the sidechains. Okay, just deploy your own sidechain in a testnet on your own computer. Modify some things, add new features like sending a message, or I don't know, everything is possible. And I think it will be quite the interesting experience for everyone who does that. There's a lot to discover.
Great. Okay, what's your Twitter if we want to follow you on Twitter?
Yeah, my Twitter is Max Kordek, and the Lisk Twitter is Lisk HQ or High Q. How is it say?
HQ, yeah.
HQ. Okay, it's Lisk HQ.
All right, great. All right, Max, I want to thank you for coming on today. I want to thank everyone for watching. Make sure to subscribe to World Crypto Network. Give us a thumbs up for this video. Share it on Twitter, social media, Telegram, everywhere else. If you have a comment, then comment below. If you want to, give Max an idea for Lisk, or you want to criticize some of the ideas, or just want to comment in general, then please do. Thanks a lot for watching, and talk to you next time.